I'm a much better player physically, mentally than I was last year.
The red clay of the Foro Italico has a way of holding onto stories. It absorbs them into the dirt, pressing them flat under every footfall, every baseline rally, every desperate lunge, and then it waits.
Sometimes one match can change a lot for you, especially when you're changing season. Clay, not my strongest surface.
It has been waiting since January 10th. That was the day in Auckland when Alexandra Eala stood at 5-3, 40-30 in the second set. One swing of her racket away from a WTA final. The stadium noise dropped to a held breath. She tossed the ball. She went for the winner. A forehand aimed hard into the deuce corner, the kind of shot champions hit when they know. And it sailed long by centimeters, taking her dream with it. Wang Xinyu exhaled, broke back, and walked away with a destiny that was never supposed to be hers. That moment has had a 4-month expiration date. And on May 8th at the Foro Italico in Rome, Alexandra Eala stuns Wang Xinyu.
And I know that I can do well. I'm a much better player physically, mentally than I was last year.
The revenge for Auckland Heartbreak is arriving. And every number, every statistic, every word Wang herself has spoken makes what is coming feel less like a prediction and more like a sentence already written in the clay. 2 days ago, Eala walked onto the Foro Italico clay and dismantled Magdalena Frech 6-0, 2-6, 6-4, coming back from 3-1 down in the deciding set when lesser players fold to set up the rematch that every Filipino fan has circled on their calendar since January. Last year in this same tournament, Eala lost her opening match to Marta Kostyuk 0-6, 1-6. She did not win a single set. Rome had swallowed her whole. Rome 2026 is a different story, and Wang Xinyu is about to find out exactly how different. Let us go back to Auckland, because that is where this revenge was born, and it deserves to be understood in full. Wang Xinyu did not beat Alexandra Eala in that semifinal. She escaped her. Eala had been broken twice early, trailing 0-4 and seemingly on her way out of the tournament. Then she reeled off 6 consecutive games. 6, with the kind of tennis Wang herself would later struggle to describe. She took the first set 7-5. She built a 5-3 lead in the second. She served for the match. She earned a match point at 40-30, and then one forehand sailed long by centimeters. Wang seized that reprieve, broke back immediately, and took the second set 7-5. In the third, she broke twice in the opening games to lead 4-0. Eala took a medical timeout for a back and shoulder issue before the Filipino clawed back to 5-4 and forced Wang to serve it out under pressure until the final point. The scoreline reads Wang Xinyu 5-7, 7-5, 6-4. What it does not capture is that Wang, by her own admission at the post-match press conference, felt overwhelmed for large stretches of that match. She did not walk off that court feeling dominant. She walked off feeling relieved. And now Wang arrives at the Foro Italico as the number 31 seed, having received a first-round bye on the back of a loss to a player ranked well outside the top 100 at a WTA 125 event in La Bisbal. She has not won a match in weeks. She carries no clay momentum. She carries no psychological heat. Eala arrives having just fought through 3 brutal sets on this exact clay 2 days ago. The conditions of this rematch are not the same as Auckland. They are the inverse of Auckland, and that changes everything. Start with the surface, because the surface is where Wang's single advantage, her 1-0 head-to-head record, dissolves on contact with reality. Wang's only win over Eala came on hard courts in Auckland. Hard courts suit Wang's game. Flat ball striking, first strike aggression, limited rally length. Clay does the opposite. It slows the ball. It elevates the bounce. It rewards topspin, endurance, and physical attrition. Every weapon Wang used in Auckland becomes harder to deploy in Rome. In the entire history of their rivalry, and yes, one match is a rivalry when it contains a match point and a medical timeout, where I think they have never played each other on clay. The scoreboard that Wang controls is a hard court scoreboard. The surface under their feet on May 8th has never been tested between them. That is not a minor detail. That is the entire foundation shifting. Now consider what the data reveals about Wang's serve, because Eala, as a left-handed returner, is precisely the wrong opponent for what the numbers show. Wang hits 64.4% on first serves. She averages 3.12 double faults per match. In 76% of her matches, she records at least 1.5 double faults. And on clay, where the surface absorbs pace and first strike tennis requires more margin, those numbers do not get better, they get worse. Picture being Wang in the third game of the second set, down a break, needing her first serve to land. The clay slows her rhythm. The left-handed return angle from Eala pulls her wide. The double fault arrives not as a surprise, but as an inevitability that the statistics have been pointing toward all season. Eala's entire left-handed return game is engineered to exploit precisely that weakness. Then look at the form calendar, compressed into its most brutal sequence. Wang's most recent match before Rome, a loss to Alina Chariva, a player not ranked in the top 100, at a WTA 125 event. She then received a first-round bye in Rome, which sounds like an advantage until you recognize she now enters the second round with match rust, no clay rhythm, and a loss still sitting in her body. Eala's most recent match before Wang, 3 sets, 2 hours, a 3-1 third set deficit survived, a comeback completed. She diagnosed her own problem mid-match at the changeover, telling her team she was not finishing points with enough intensity, and then immediately corrected it. Monday, Wang lost to a player outside the top 100. Wednesday, Eala survived a crisis and won. Thursday, Wang sat with a bye and waited. The momentum arrows are not ambiguous, and the pattern extends further back because patterns matter more than single data points. Wang defeated Eala in Auckland in January. Then she lost the Auckland final to Alina Svitolina 6-3, 7-6. She beat Eala on borrowed time and could not convert that borrowed time into a title. In Indian Wells, Ajla Tomljanovic dismissed her 6-3, 6-1. The trajectory of 2026 for Wang is not a line moving upward. It is a player who had one excellent week in Auckland and has been searching for that form ever since. Eala has lost early on clay this season, Stuttgart, Linz, Madrid, and there is no point pretending otherwise. But her clay record is not the story. The story is what the Frech match revealed. When Rome presented her with a third set crisis at 3-1 down, the exact psychological pressure point that collapsed her serve in Auckland, she did not repeat the pattern. She held, she broke, she won. Growth is not what players say about themselves. Growth is what they do when the match turns against them. And then there is Wang's own testimony, not an analyst's opinion, not a fan's hope. The words of the woman who holds the 1-0 record, spoken into a microphone at the Auckland post-match press conference. Alex is such a fighter, and I feel the pressure even when it's 5-1 up. She just relaxed and she started to play amazing tennis, both the first set and the third set, and put me in such great pressure all the time. There was nothing much I could do from my side other than just clap for her good shots. Clap for her good shots. The fans who stayed up through the Auckland night, who gathered around stadium screens with ground passes because every center court ticket was gone. The fans who watched Eala claw from 0-4 to 7-5 in that first set and believed with every point, they knew what Wang's words confirmed. They saw what the rankings and the scoreline failed to capture. This community of believers was not wrong about what Eala is. Wang Xinyu, standing at a press conference as the technical winner, said so herself. But it is not only Wang's confession that validates what is coming in Rome. Mats Wilander has won 7 Grand Slam titles. 3 of them came at the French Open, in clay, on the precise surface where Eala and Wang will meet. He is not a broadcaster who traffics in hype. He is a man whose entire analytical reputation rests on technical precision, built over decades as Eurosport's lead voice in the sport. When Wilander assessed Alexandra Eala, he did not reach for a diplomatic compliment. He reached for something that sounded less like analysis and more like awe. He described her as someone who has, in his words, hands given by God, A three-time French Open champion, as someone who understands clay like a language, chose those 4 words to describe a 20-year-old from the Philippines. Wang's post-match press conference told us what Eala does to opponents on the court. Weilander's assessment tells us what Eala represents to those who understand the sport at its deepest level. Together, they form a verdict that predates the May 8th match entirely. The hands were always there. The surface just happens to reward them. A win over Wang Xinyu in Rome does not simply close the Auckland chapter, it opens the most anticipated first meeting in women's tennis right now. World number 2, Elena Rybakina, the Australian Open champion, the Stuttgart clay court winner this season, is the most likely third-round opponent for whoever advances from the Eala-Wang match. Rybakina and Eala have never played each other on the WTA Tour, not once. And the moment that match is confirmed, it becomes the only match anyone in women's tennis is talking about. But beyond the bracket, there is a ranking reality that makes Rome the most strategically important clay tournament of Eala's career. She holds just 20 ranking points to defend here and at Roland Garros combined. After first-round exits in both events last year, every round she advances in Rome is a net gain. Every win pushes her live ranking back toward the career-high number 29 she reached on March 16th. Roland Garros begins May 18th, and she arrives there carrying whatever momentum Rome builds. The Italian Open and Roland Garros are not 2 separate events on a calendar. They are a 2-tournament runway, and right now Eala is accelerating down it. For over 110 million Filipinos at home and across every diaspora community from Dubai to Los Angeles to Riyadh, every round in Rome is not just a scoreline. It is appointment viewing. It is national news. It is the kind of story that does not need promotion because it promotes itself across every Filipino outlet, every social media feed, every WhatsApp group at 2 a.m., people staying awake because they refuse to miss it. This match against Wang is not the destination. It is the door. The honest version of this story includes the third set in Auckland. Down 4-0 in the decider, Eala took a medical timeout. Her back and shoulder were compromised. She was a set and a breakdown, injured, facing a player who had just stolen her match point and broken her twice in rapid succession. She came back out and broke Wang to make it 5-4. She made Wang serve it out under pressure. She did not fold into the deficit. She reduced it point by point until Wang had to earn the final games instead of simply receiving them. And when it was over, Eala did not disappear. She was back on court at the Kooyong Classic days later. She entered the Australian Open for the first time in her career. She ground through a clay season that has not been kind. Stuttgart, Linz, Madrid, all ending early. And she arrived at the Foro Italico, a tournament where 12 months ago she lost 0-6, 1-6 without winning a set, and she beat Magdalena Frech in 3. Nobody gave her a medical timeout against adversity in the offseason. Nobody handed her a bye in the draw of difficult clay courts. She showed up and played through every one of them. That is the player Wang Xinyu faces on May 8th. Not the Auckland version who couldn't convert a match point. The Rome version who has already proven she can survive a losing position on this exact clay and come out the other side. 4 months ago, a forehand sailed long by centimeters in Auckland, and Wang Xinyu exhaled. On May 8th at the Foro Italico, Wang arrives without match rhythm, without clay momentum, carrying a loss to a player outside the top 100 in a press conference confession that Eala's tennis left her with nothing to do but applaud. She arrives on a surface that erases her one head-to-head advantage. She arrives against a player who just broke back from 3-1 down in a deciding set on this same Rome clay 2 days ago, diagnosed her own problems mid-match, and corrected them in real time. Alexandra Eala stuns Wang Xinyu in Rome. The revenge for Auckland HEARTBREAK is not a prediction dressed up in drama. It is the logical conclusion of every fact, every number, and every word Wang herself has already spoken. Wang said there was nothing she could do but clap for Eala's good shots, and that was in a match she technically won on hard courts. Imagine what Rome's clay is going to say. The moment Eala walks onto that court on May 8th, She does not walk on as the player who missed a match point. She walks on as the player Wang already admitted she could not contain, and that changes the psychological weight of every point in that match before a single ball is struck. A Rybakina collision may await in the third round. Roland Garros arrives on May 18th. The ranking return toward number 29 is 2 tournaments away. Every door in this story runs through the match in Rome, and Eala has already paid the entry fee in Auckland. What happens next is not something you want to hear about after the fact. If Eala beats Wang in Rome and earns that third round date with Rybakina, can she do it? Can a number 39 ranked player from the Philippines take a set off the world number 2 on clay in Italy? Drop your prediction below, because this comment section is going to be worth reading on May 8th. Subscribe now and turn on notifications because when the result drops from Rome, this channel covers it before you have finished refreshing your feed. Every round Eala wins, we are here with the full breakdown, the next opponent preview, and everything the mainstream tennis coverage misses. You have been following this story? Do not let the next chapter find you late. The clay is waiting, the rematch is set, the revenge is written.